Well, it wasn't about getting famous, not yet. The thought probably wasn't even in his head, not really. Not in a way that felt real. Fame was for people on the radio, people in the movies. It wasn't for a truck driver from Memphis, a kid who grew up poor in a two-room house in Tupelo, Mississippi. No, this was about something else entirely. It was about his mother. It was the summer of 1953. Memphis was hot. The air was thick and heavy. He was just a teenager, barely 18 years old, driving a truck for the Crown Electric Company. He made about $1 an hour. He wore his collar up and let his hair grow a little long, trying to find a style that felt like his own. He was shy mostly. He was polite. He always said ma'am and sir. And more than anything in the world, he loved his mother Gladys. Their bond was something different. He was her only child. His twin brother Jesse had been stillborn. That loss created a space that only he could fill. Gladys poured all her love, all her hopes, and all her fears into her surviving son. She called him by a pet name. She walked him to school every day, holding his hand, well into an age when other boys would have been embarrassed. But he wasn't. He was her boy. He would do anything for her. Life hadn't been easy. The family moved from Tupelo to Memphis when he was 13, looking for better work, a better life. They lived in public housing. Money was always tight. His father Vernon worked odd jobs. Gladys worked too when she could, but they were a tight unit. And at the center of that unit was the love between a mother and her son. He promised her that one day he would make it big. He would buy her a big house, a pink Cadillac. He would take care of her so she never had to work again. These were not just empty promises. They were the driving force of his life. He loved music. It was everywhere. He heard it in the church they went to, the powerful gospel hymns that shook the walls. He heard it on the radio, the country stars from the Grand Ole Opry. He heard it on Beale Street, the raw, honest blues drifting out of the clubs he was too young to enter. He absorbed it all. He had a guitar, a cheap one he got for his 11th birthday. He'd sit in his room and try to play what he heard, try to sing like the people on the radio. His voice was something special. He must have known it, on some level, but what could he do with it? He had an idea. It was a simple, humble idea. He wanted to make a record, not a record to sell in stores. That was a fantasy. He wanted to make a personal record, a one-of-a-kind disc. He wanted to hear what his own voice sounded like coming from a speaker, and more than that, he wanted to give it to his mother. Her birthday was in April, so this would be a late gift, a very special one. He saved up his money, $4. That was a lot of money for him back then. So it was half a day's work, maybe more, but it was worth it. There was a place in town on Union Avenue, and it wasn't a big fancy record label. It was a small storefront called the Memphis Recording Service. The man who ran it was named Sam Phillips. Sam had a little sign that said, "We record anything, anywhere, anytime." And he meant it. People came in to record weddings, speeches, all sorts of things. But mostly, they came in to record music. It was like a photo booth for your voice. For a few bucks, you could sing a song, and they would cut it right onto an acetate disc for you to take home. So that was the plan. So one day, probably on his lunch break, he parked his truck and walked in. He was nervous. He was just a kid in his work clothes. The place was small, just a little office in the front and a studio in the back. Sam Phillips wasn't there that day. A woman named Marion Kiesker was running the desk. She was the one who saw him first. She asked him what he was there for. He said he wanted to make a record for his mom. Marion was used to this. Lots of young kids came in, dreaming of being the next Hank Williams. She made small talk with him while she got things ready. She asked him who he sounded like. It was a standard question. It helped her know what to expect. His answer became legendary. He just shrugged and said, "I don't sound like nobody." He paid his $4. Marion took him into the studio. It was a simple room, not much bigger than a living room. There was a microphone, a stool, and not much else. He had his guitar with him. He had to decide what to sing. He could have sung a blues song, something he heard down on Beale Street. He could have sung a country song, something from the Opry. He could have sung a gospel song, something from his church. But he didn't. He chose something else. He chose a ballad, a soft, sentimental song. It was a popular song from a few years earlier, in the late 1940s. It was a song about longing, about finding joy and comfort in a memory. It was a sweet song, a safe song, the kind of song a mother would like. This wasn't about being a rebel. This wasn't about inventing a new kind of music. This was about singing something beautiful for the person who meant the most to him. He was thinking about her taste, not his own. The choice was an act of love. He sat on the stool with his guitar. Marion started the machine. The lathe began to cut a groove into the blank acetate disc. He took a breath and started to sing. His voice was high and clear. It trembled a little. You can hear the nerves. You could also hear the sincerity. It wasn't perfect. He played the guitar a little too fast. The timing was a bit off, but there was something there. a unique quality, a vulnerability. It was the sound of a young man pouring his heart out, not for an audience of millions, but for an audience of one. He sang the song. It was just a few minutes long. When he finished, Marion asked him to sing something else for the other side of the record. He chose another slow, sad ballad, a song about a love that has ended. Again, it was a gentle, heartfelt performance. And that was it. The recording was done. Marion was impressed. She thought there was something special about his voice. She made a note of his name and phone number. She wrote down a little comment next to it, "Good ballad singer, hold." She had a feeling Sam Phillips should hear this kid. But for the young man, that wasn't the point. He had what he came for. He took the fragile 10-inch acetate disc. It was the only copy in the world. He was careful with it. He left the studio and went back to his life, back to his truck. The story gets a little fuzzy here. Some people say he was so excited that he took the record to his friend Ed Leek's house because his family didn't have a record player that worked. He wanted to hear it right away. They put it on the turntable and listened. It must have been a strange and wonderful moment, hearing his own voice coming back at him like that, captured in time. Then, he took it home. He gave the record to Gladys. We can only imagine what that moment was like. Her boy, her only child, had saved up his own money to make this for her. It wasn't a store-bought gift. It was a piece of him. It was his voice singing a sweet song just for her. She must have treasured it. It was proof of his love. It was a glimpse of the future he had promised her. That record was not a demo tape. It was not a business card. It was a birthday present. That's the simple truth. The reason he walked into that studio was not to become a star. It was to make his mother happy. Everything that came later, the call from Sam Phillips, the contract with Sun Records, the crowds, the gold records, the movies, the fame that would change the world, all of it started here. It started with a simple, pure act of love for his mom. The record itself became a forgotten object. It was a personal keepsake, not a historical artifact. It got left behind in a home the family moved out of. It ended up with that same friend, Ed Leek. For decades, it was just an old record sitting in a collection. The world knew about it, but no one had heard it. It was a ghost, a legend. The first sound ever recorded by the man who would become the king of rock and roll. 10 years later, it finally surfaced. It was sold at an auction. The musician Jack White, a man who deeply respects the history of American music, bought it. He wanted to preserve it. He treated it not just as a collectible, but as a sacred object. He made a digital transfer so the world could finally hear it, and then he put the original disc away for safekeeping. When you listen to it today, you don't hear a king, you don't hear a legend. You don't hear the swagger or the sneer, you hear a shy, nervous, 18-year-old boy with a guitar. You hear him trying his best, you hear him singing a song he thinks his mother will love. It's a raw and beautiful thing. It's the sound of a dream before it knew it was a dream. He chose that song because it was gentle. He chose it because it was loving. He chose it because it was a popular ballad, a familiar melody that would bring a smile to his mother's face. It was a song about how, even when you are alone, the memory of a loved one can bring you joy. It was a message from a son to his mother. It was his way of saying, "You are my world." And the name of that song, the first sound he ever put on a record, was "My Happiness."